GBCEO exposes the Blair Supremacy. Part 1. It doesn't feel like a war. It feels like life. It's the endless, soul-crushing queue for a doctor's appointment. It's the cost of living crisis that bleeds you dry, pound by pound. It's the automated rejection letter for benefits you desperately need. It's the knowing anxiety that the system is broken, that no one is coming to help. This feeling, this exhaustion, this societal fatigue is not an accident. It is the intended result of a weapon. The British public is standing in a national kill zone, and the weapon being used against them is the state itself. This weapon was perfected on the Windrush generation, a pilot program of bureaucratic torture designed to liquidate a population. And now, it is being deployed against everyone. To understand how, you have to go back to 1997, to the architects who built the machine. When Tony Blair, the new prime minister, swept into power, it felt like a new dawn. It wasn't. It was the beginning of a silent coup. This was a two-track operation. On the surface was a clean track. Blair's government began Operation Third Way. It looked like modern charity, but it was a co-option. It fused state power with the ancient, trusted networks of the monarchy's lieutenancy and the UK community foundations. It put the state's political operatives inside the nation's civic heart, creating a new, unaccountable layer of control. But beneath the surface was a dirty track, run by the strategic linchpin, Keir Mandelson, the minister without portfolio. Mandelson's job was to forge the real weapons and generate the leverage needed to control the state. First, he created the Broken Shield. This was a series of policies designed to create a crisis. In 1997, Mandelson's social exclusion agenda began the process of pathologizing certain communities. Then, the 1999 McPherson Report, overseen by Home Secretary Jack Straw, was used to create a chilling effect on police. This was followed by the 2001 Community Cohesion Doctrine, championed by the new Home Secretary, David Blunkett. This combination of policies was a trap. It created the cohesion veto, a guarantee that police and social services would be paralyzed, terrified to investigate certain crimes for fear of being labeled racist. The result was a guaranteed, foreseeable, and manageable crisis: the explosion of child sexual exploitation (CSE) grooming gangs. This crisis wasn't just a tragedy, it was a resource. It created a new stream of leverage, of blackmail data, of fear that the shadow state could control. While this crisis was brewing, Mandelson was also cultivating the state's adherence to its enemies, the foreign criminal enterprise of Jeffrey Epstein and the global financial interests of banks like JP Morgan. The shadow state was now fully armed. Part 2. By 2008, the shadow state's architecture was built, the broken shield was in place, and the CSE crisis it created was festering in towns across Britain. But the legal system was a problem. It was fragmented. The evidence of the shadow state's policies was still visible. The 1998 Glidewell Review, overseen by Blair's Attorney General, Lord Irvine, had shattered the Crown Prosecution Service CPS into 40 silos. This was Operation Trojan Horse. It installed 42 new gatekeeper chief Crown prosecutors, one for each police force, to control the flow of information. The problem was that this 42-silo structure was messy. The data was too fragmented. The records of inaction, of why the grooming gangs were not being prosecuted, were an auditable liability. The shadow state needed to bury this entire architecture. They needed a cleaner. They found him in Keir Starmer. In 2008, Starmer was installed as the Director of Public Prosecutions. His mission, inherited from the Blair Mandelson machine, was not to seek justice. It was to contain the crises his predecessors had created. His job was to bury the evidence. From 2010 to 2011, he executed Operation Clean Slate. Using the 2010 austerity budget as the perfect cover, Starmer restructured the CPS. He abolished the 40 fragmented silos, and with them, the incriminating records of a decade of inaction. He consolidated them into 13 new, streamlined groups. And to run this new, centralized system, he installed his own trusted group of 13 cleaners, new chief Crown prosecutors. It was a bureaucratic masterstroke. In one move, Starmer buried the original sin. The architecture of the broken shield was now hidden, its records purged or consolidated into oblivion. Only after this cover-up was complete did Starmer's CPS allow the managed crisis to be released. The high-profile grooming gang trials, like Rochdale in 2012, were not justice. They were a controlled release. They were a narrative control operation, run by the very cleaner who had just buried the evidence of the state's complicity. Part 3. With Keir Starmer's Clean Slate operation complete, the shadow state was secure. Its criminal architecture was buried, and its control over the legal system was absolute. Now, it was free to deploy its ultimate weapon, the Windrush Protocol. This was the doctrine of administrative liquidation. It was perfected on the Windrush generation through the hostile environment policy, which was launched in 2012, immediately after Starmer's CPS restructure was complete. The Windrush Protocol is not a single policy. It is a system of 5 tactics, a manual for bureaucratic torture designed to liquidate a target. First is the impossible burden of proof. This tactic demands evidence the state knows the victim can never provide. It demands documents that were destroyed, or that never existed in the first place. It was used in the post office scandal to convict sub-postmasters, and it was used against the Windrush generation to deny their very citizenship. Second is the weaponization of delay. This uses endless timelines, lost files, and bureaucratic loops to exhaust a person's will to fight. It's designed to make you give up, or die, before you ever see justice. This is the logic of the Windrush compensation scheme. Third is the doctrine of derisory value. This offers compensation that is so small, it functions as a second insult. It's a form of rage dramatization, telling the victim that their life, their suffering, and their loss are worthless. Fourth is the labyrinth of procedure. This creates a bureaucratic maze with no map, no guide, and no exit. It is a system designed to be so complex and opaque that you become hopelessly lost, burning your own time and money until you have nothing left. Finally, there is the culture of disbelief. This is the institutional default that treats every victim as a liar. It is a hostile, adversarial mindset that assumes every applicant is a fraud and every person seeking help is an enemy. This 5-part protocol was a stunning success. It destroyed lives, families, and entire communities with brutal, silent efficiency. And now, it is being used on all of us. The NHS waiting list is the weaponization of delay. The PIP assessment for a disabled person is the impossible burden of proof. The cost of living crisis is the doctrine of derisory value. The post office and infected blood scandals are the culture of disbelief. This is the shadow state's endgame, to create a societal fatigue so profound that the public becomes a population of war-wounded, too tired, too sick, and too poor to ever fight back. Part 4. No one was safe from this machine, not even the crown. The shadow state's operation struck at the very heart of the nation, the royal family itself. This was the ultimate betrayal. The Epstein network, cultivated by Blair Mandelson, was not just a foreign entity, it was a vector of attack. It systematically compromised Prince Andrew, creating a national security vulnerability and a shadow state leverage point at the highest level of the monarchy. This was not a personal failing, it was a systemic compromise. Then, the hostile environment doctrine, the exact same set of tactics used against the Windrush generation, was turned on Prince Harry and his wife. It was a targeted, psychological campaign of expulsion, which successfully drove a senior, popular member of the royal family from the country. The human toll of this two-front war was catastrophic. The Queen, in her final years, was forced to endure the concurrent crises of one son being exposed as a shadow state compromise and another being expelled. The stress of this attack on her family and her crown was unbearable. It precipitated her decline, contributing to her death and that of her husband, Prince Philip. King Charles III did not inherit a stable kingdom. He inherited a monarchy in a state of profound crisis, a family fractured and an institution weakened, a direct and intended consequence of the shadow state's decades-long war. This is the system, a shadow state built by Prime Minister Blair and his linchpin Mandelson, a cover-up executed by DPP Keir Starmer, and a weapon of bureaucratic torture deployed against the entire British people. The scandals are not separate. The grooming gangs, Windrush, the post office, the NHS, the cost of living crisis, the fall of the royal house, they are all connected. They are all the output of a single, corrupt machine. The machine has been unmasked. The protocol is known. The fight back has just begun. Please support GBCEO. Share this video. Join the GBCEO Facebook group. Read the full dossier. GBCEO exposes the Blair Supremacy.